Hey, well, good morning, my friends, and welcome to another Faith Press. And the idea is simple, just like a French press sits in water. You have to have those beans steep for about 4 minutes to become bold and effective. So we know that sitting in the presence of Jesus helps us to become bold and effective in our life. That time with God spent in His presence, it matters and it's effective and it moves us. So just want to say a few things this morning by way of encouragement. And I want to draw your attention back to Revelation. Yesterday at St. Peter's, I was teaching on the fact that 60 years had passed before Jesus had ascended to the Father and then spoken to John on Patmos. 60 years. So we're talking potentially 2 to 3 generations. And I think one of the temptations that we have today is that Jesus is no longer speaking to us, to our context, to our churches. That Jesus, if it is real and the story is true, then maybe God is distant somewhere doing God's own thing. And hopefully every once in a while God checks in on us, but for the most part, God's not really involved. And I think what we find is even 60 years had passed between the ascension and this vision that Jesus gives to John, that what we learn from Revelation is that Jesus was still speaking and had specific insights into every single city about their city and following the kingdom of God. And I think I want to take that principle and apply it to us today. That the Jesus who was speaking to John is the Jesus who is still speaking to us. And that's hard to believe, but nevertheless, it is true that Jesus is still alive, is active, is aware, and is speaking into our context, into our city, into Charleston, into Mount Pleasant, into St. Peter's, into your home, into your work, into all of it. Jesus isn't neutral. Jesus is speaking. And so we looked at all the symbols of the city of Ephesus this past Sunday at St. Peter's, and we began to see how, when we understand that context, we can see how specifically Jesus is speaking in a way that they would have known even deeper in that context. Well, the invitation is this. What are the symbols in our city? What are the symbols in your life that, since Jesus is speaking, you might use your imagination to discern, how would Jesus be speaking into my life through this symbol? We looked at the bridge, the Ravenel Bridge, yesterday, and we asked the question, if Jesus was visiting our town physically, might he use that bridge to say, are you anything like that bridge that you drive across or look at every single day? Are you building bridges in your life? Or are you basically too busy destroying people who disagree with you? Do we build bridges in our relationships? Do we build bridges with people that aren't like us in order to be curious and to be compassionate toward those from a different perspective? How are we building bridges, or how are we tearing them down? And that's really the question I think that I want to walk through in this series, is to give you an invitation to name some symbols in your neighborhood, to name some symbols in our city, and to think through them through the lens of, what would Jesus say about that symbol and what it means to follow him in our time? So I want to draw your attention to Revelation chapter 2, and I want to invite you to read verses 8 through verse 11 today. It's 4 verses. It's the church of Smyrna. I'm going to teach on it next Sunday at St. Peter's. And I just want you to consider, what is the theology, what is the truth that Jesus is trying to say to this church in Smyrna? And if he were to say that same truth to us today in Charleston, what symbols might he use in our context to drive that point home? Because I think God wants to use our imaginations. I think God wants to use every square inch of creation. I think God wants to think about how we look at familiar things, familiar buildings, symbols, structures, parks, all of these things. And Jesus is constantly saying, well, you know this, so let me take that concept and help you understand this about my heart for the world. And so I just invite you on that creative journey to read through Revelation chapter 2, verses 8 through 11, and ask yourself the question, Jesus, what are you trying to say? And how might you be trying to say that in a unique way through the symbols in our city? So my friends, grace and peace to you. I pray that you are well in the Spirit, and that in these challenging times, you will be a people of hope who experience the freshness of the presence of God in your life. Grace and peace.